Alright guys, what's up? Here we are live with the Last of Us 2. I forgot what the name of this shit is, but it's Last of Us 2. That's all I care about. Been working out. Well, today was my first day, but it still counts, right? 40 seconds. 40 seconds to go. I'm more than excited about this because we've been waiting for this specific one for so long now. And then they delayed it. Then they said they're going to announce when it's back. We about to get into this, though. 20 seconds, guys. 20 seconds. 10. We about to count this shit out like motherfucking New Year's. Let's go. The Last of Us 2 is a staple for Naughty Dog, certainly being their top grossing game title. Last of Us is not only a nostalgic trip into a brutal, gritty, and post-apocalyptic world, but it's a mark for the game's dynamic environment, smooth and graphically enhanced animations and models, and their perfectly blended dialogue and narrative that really makes the game what it is to this very day. So let's break down The Last of Us 2 based on Sony's State of Play that was released earlier today. So, in The Last of Us 2, Ellie ends up in Jackson, Wyoming after the end of Last of Us 1. So, a lot of the stuff that we're probably going to see in this, in Part 2, is going to be correlated to the ending of Part 1. And if you guys haven't played that, I'm not going to, spill any spoilers here, but, you might want to play that just to get a full grip. Ellie is 19 years old and built a long-lasting relationship with her community that she lives in and thrives on her own, which is in Jackson. Jackson and Ellie suffer a traumatizing and violent event, in the words of Neil Druckmann, which is the director of the game. And due to this, Ellie tries to search for retribution and justice to, the events that occurred. There are multiple seasons and climates, multiple different environments to explore through, and the cities are just so authentic to real life. It just brings a sense of immersion that, using the new Naughty Dog engine that they spoke about. So let's talk about traversal and navigation, alright? So Ellie can climb and jump over gaps. She can also use a rope this time around to be able to go over terrains, obstacles, and also, climb down for more exploration opportunities. Ellie can also ride horseback, right? Because the maps here are going to be really big. So she can ride horseback and navigate huge terrains using that, right? And this includes boats as well. They're going to be adding in boats features so you can navigate over water when it's needed, all right? Let's talk about the factions now, right? There's two main factions that are in a constant conflict, right? An ongoing conflict for territory and resources. The first one is called WLF, Washington Liberation Front, right? And I love how they use the backstory and narratives to really creatively add to these factions, right? Instead of having a typical game that we see all the time that has, so-and-so faction. No, they really took this and made it a creative faction system that they have here. So what is WLF? It's a militia group that began as a resistance to the military occupation of Seattle. They ended up taking control of the city from them and are highly trained, organized, and armed with army-grade stolen weapons, okay? So in other words, I don't want to fight those motherfuckers, alright? So we got the Seraphites. They're the second faction, otherwise known as Scars. The Seraphites are religious zealots, whatever the fuck that means, with cuts across their faces. That's how you identify them. They are very territorial, but they're stealthy, right? And they use primarily silent weapons like bows and arrows. So what I love about that in itself is like I said, they're two different factions that they're just making a creative separation with, and it's gonna add on to the game so much more. I love how they implemented these two different faction styles of engagement. You got that one typical savage militia group, highly trained, they're armed, and then the second one is like a religious cult-like group that they take a more quiet, stealthier approach, right? And it's very well executed and creative, to add that sense of realism to the already crumbled world, right? So now we're going to jump into probably one of the most important factors of this game, the infected. And there's a few changes this time around. So You have your typical runners who are more dangerous and they come in numbers, right? We've seen that before. We have the same clickers with the same horrifying sounds and noises and all that shit that they made. Then there's also going to be stalkers, who those are the ones that they hide and I guess they attack you by surprise or whatever. They're going to be there as well. But we're going to see some new infected, which I'm actually really excited for. So we're going to see what they're called the Shamblers. These are new and strong enemies that they're covered in pustules, however you say that expels a spore cloud when it gets close to you. Then we got combat. There's going to be a few changes in this one as well. I think they narrowed down the combat to be way more effective, way more realistic this time around. So you're allowed to choose whether you're going to fight enemies or bypass them. In this one, you're going to be able to use Ellie's skills and the environment to really accomplish the goal however you see fit. So if you want to fight guards, you can go ahead and fight them. If you want to run away or bypass them altogether, you can go ahead and do that as well. WLF uses guard dogs to patrol, which is a really big change. We didn't see this in the first one. The dogs can sense your smell while you're in cover, so really you're never safe this time around. They'll find you even if you're in cover. And you can use listen mode, which they also had in the first one, but I guess they're expanding it to see the trail of the scent that the dogs are smelling. There's also tall grasses. Because this game does take place after the first one, the I guess what's the word it's called, degradation or some shit, I don't know. You're going to be able to use the tall grasses to go prone this time and out of sight. So if you're in that tall grass, enemies can't see you. But here's the thing, I really enjoy the sense of skill and difficulty that they're adding to this combat. It seems more tactical. You really got to think about what you're gonna do, because even if you're in the grass, enemies are still going to be able to spot you if they get close enough. So you're not completely out of the game. If all else fails and you're overwhelmed, then you can run to any area that you want, any new area, and just get a fresh start, whether you want to fight again or if you want to take the stealth approach, whatever that may be. You can break glass as well and go through tight spaces. So if you are going through this environment, you can jump into a building, break the glass, jump in, or whatever you might want to do. This can be done during any combat situation, so you can just flip the switch and run and hide and make these changes as you please while in combat, which is the best part. I think that's pretty damn cool, right? Ellie is way more agile this time around, so she can sprint, she can dodge enemies, which is huge because this gives us a more combat-oriented fighting gameplay style that we haven't seen yet, right? I like how they expanded on the fighting style this time around. You can dodge, do counter attacks if you time it right. So you got to make sure your timing on your dodges in the combat are good, because they're essentially vital to you staying alive this time around. You can still throw and stun. You can still throw items and stun enemies. And you can also use enemies as shields, but we've seen that in the first one. Allies will be able to spot enemies for you in combat. They'll help you to fight in combat. They can navigate the environment with you. So Ellie won't be alone in this game. She won't always be alone, as much as we think. And then there's going to be some new strategic opportunities, right? You can mix infected and factions. If you're in a scenario where there's infected and also at the same time there are factions in that same area, you can use the infected to your advantage and kind of make them swarm the enemies with clickers and runners, kind of thin them out so you can have an easier way of getting through that certain level. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is the crafting and the upgrades. So similar crafting as the first game. If you've watched the video or if you've seen the actual state of play, you'll see that it's a backpack as the first one, but also it's very dynamic as well. You can find ingredients, scavenge for items, and you can upgrade Ellie and your weapons through training manuals that are scattered throughout the environments, which are pretty damn cool, because it's kind of like you pick up a manual, you read it, and you upgrade or whatever you want to do. It caters to multiple playstyles, which I like a lot, because you get that combat as well as upgrade system mix, which I really love. that upgrading system in any game really. And then there's a new workbench system, which is pretty damn dynamic. It allows you to modify any scavenged parts that you've found and improve their performance. I think that is cool how in the game, if you modify a weapon, you can actually see it physically. It's gonna the modification is seen, and so you can use that same weapon and see it as well. You can also use some, you know, side weapons like proximity mines, explosive arrows, suppressors, etc. There's gonna be a whole bunch of weapons to use. For all my Last of Us fans, we are in for an immensely good treat with this one. We are in for something great. I'm super pumped, super excited for this. Super fucking excited for this. I think that this is gonna be game of the year again. I wouldn't doubt it. I am ready to play this shit. June 19th. We're gonna hop on this stuff. If you like the video, go ahead and subscribe and comment. Watch this. I'm gonna put the link for you guys if you want to watch it yourselves and watch the full thing, right? Watch that. But man, look at these comments. They're going ham right now. Not impressed. Well, you're a fucking idiot, but they're going ham right now. This is crazy. So I'm excited. I'll see you guys on the next video.